We travel now to the plains of Africa, where our brave first sons, Eric and Donald Jr., embark on a quest to find the perfect gift for President Dad.
Quiet, Lion! We're trying to use our wits and determination.
Ever wonder what happens when you mix two Trump boys, a talking lion, and the last hunt in Africa?
I can't wait to make my half into a new wig for Daddy.
Roar! I'm the last lion in Africa.
We are too stupid to know.
Trust me, you won't be able to look away from this disaster. Quick favor before we move on. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel.
Our grandpa's name was Fred.
Well, folks, it looks like our favorite trust fund twins, Eric and Don Jr., decided to take their show on the road. Now, back to the video.
That's right, we should be friends.
Freds? What's Freds?
Picture this. Eric and Don Jr. step off their private jet, decked out in safari gear so new it still has the price tags on. By road, I mean the vast plains of Africa, because nothing says cultural sensitivity quite like two clueless rich kids stomping around the savannah. It looked like they just raided the colonizer chic section of Bloomingdale's. Eric's got on a pith helmet that's about 3 sizes too big, while Don Jr. is sporting a vest with more pockets than brain cells. Don Jr. squints into the distance and replies, "That's a giraffe, you doofus." But before you give him too much credit, he follows it up with, "Let's ride it." As they stumble onto African soil, Eric turns to his brother and says, "Hey Don, I think I see a long-necked elephant." Spoiler alert, it doesn't go well. Their local guide is standing off to the side, rolling his eyes so hard you'd think he was auditioning for an exorcism movie. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure giraffes aren't exactly known for their horseback riding potential. But hey, when has a lack of knowledge ever stopped a Trump? As our dynamic duo tries to figure out how to lasso a giraffe, the guide, bless his heart, just stares at him for a solid minute before saying, "Sir, this is a wildlife reserve." Meanwhile, Eric's busy having his own adventure. But the real kicker comes when Don Jr., in all his infinite wisdom, turns to the guide and asks, "So where's Trump Tower, Nairobi?" He catches sight of his shadow on the ground and nearly jumps out of his skin. "Don! Don! There's a strange dark figure following me." As our intrepid explorers continue their journey, they decide it's time for some real adventure. He shrieks, diving behind a nearby bush. Don Jr., ever the supportive brother, just sighs and mutters, "I can't believe we share DNA." Eric, still a bit shaken from his shadow encounter, nervously agrees. They grab their rifles, which they're probably holding backwards, and set off into the bush, leaving their exasperated guide behind. "Let's go hunt a lion," Don Jr. exclaims, puffing out his chest like he's auditioning for the role of Gaston in a low-budget Beauty and the Beast production. You might be thinking, surely they can't mess this up too badly, right? Oh, my sweet summer child.
And I never got a chance to have sons that I could be proud of.
Dad never got a chance to do that either.
Now, you underestimate the power of Trump-level ignorance. As they're tiptoeing through the grass, making about as much noise as a herd of elephants in a china shop, they suddenly freeze. Eric, not to be outdone in the stupidity department, replies, "I think it's a baby lion. Look how small and fierce it is." There, right in front of them, is a dung beetle, happily rolling its ball of poop. Don Jr., in a moment of sheer brilliance, whispers to Eric, Is that a lion?" Their guide, who's been watching this whole debacle from a safe distance, just shakes his head and mutters something that sounds suspiciously like, "I don't get paid enough for this." The brothers exchange a look of pure panic, and then, in perfect synchronization, they turn tail and run, screaming at the top of their lungs. But wait, there's more. As they're running, Eric suddenly stops and yells, "Don!" Don Jr. just stares at his brother, a mix of confusion and disappointment on his face. Eric, looking very proud of himself, says, "You know that phrase we heard earlier, Hakuna Matata." But this ain't no circle of life, it's more like circle of strife, as they face off against one sassy, Shakespeare-quoting king of the jungle, he says slowly. That's from The Lion King. Just when you thought the Trump boys couldn't get any more cartoonish, they stumble into a real-life Disney moment. The lion, looking more annoyed than scared, decides to try reasoning with these two-legged disasters. They suddenly come face to face with the last lion in Africa. Will their big game hunting turn into a big game of who's the biggest fool? As our dynamic duo of dimwits, Eric and Don Jr., tiptoe through the tall grass, but this ain't your average kitty cat. This feline's got a PhD in sass and a master's in verbal smackdowns.
It's illegal. I'm an endangered species.
I must inform you that your current endeavor is not only ill-advised, but also highly illegal. I am, after all, an endangered species. Eric's face scrunches up like he's trying to solve a Rubik's Cube with his brain. Endangered species, he sounds out slowly.
Breaking news. In a sweeping executive order, President Trump has legalized all killing of everything.
Listen here, Simba, he says, pulling out what looks suspiciously like a squished McDonald's hamburger from one of his many vest pockets. How about we make a deal? Is that like a new cologne? Does it smell like lion? Don Jr., not to be outdone in the stupidity department, steps forward with all the confidence of a man who thinks he can solve world hunger with a Trump steak. You let us hunt you, and we'll give you this genuine Trump steak. It's worth millions. The lion quips, to quote the bard, the empty vessel makes the loudest sound. Don Jr. elbows his brother. No, you idiot. He's talking about that guy who throws spears at Shakespeare festivals. Lion rolls his eyes so hard they almost fall out of his head. I'm afraid your father's estates hold about as much value as his promises. Eric's eyes light up. Oh, I know this one. Shakespeare. He's the guy who invented milkshakes, right? We won't hunt you if you let us use some of that fabulous hair for Dad's next toupee. Undeterred by their own ignorance, Eric decides to change tactics. Hey, Mr. Lion, he says, eyeing the majestic mane. How about we make a deal? It'll be huge. The lion, clearly at the end of his rope, decides it's time for some tough love. His policies are destroying the environment faster than you two can mispronounce conservation. Listen here, you walking, talking arguments for better education funding. He growls. Everything your father stands for has a negative impact on our lives. The lion, cool as a cucumber, responds. Actually, it's not. You see, I'm protected by international law, but I wouldn't expect you to understand that, given your family's tenuous relationship with legality. Don Jr., sensing he's losing control of the situation, decides to go for the big guns. He puffs out his chest and declares, well, we're still gonna hunt you. It's our right as Americans. As the brothers fumble with their rifles, trying to figure out which end goes boom, the lion gracefully sidesteps them. With a flick of his tail, You know, he says, in any other circumstance, this would be considered poetic justice. But Eric and Don Jr. lay tangled in a mess of their own making. The lion looks down at them with a mix of pity and amusement. First order of business, handing out MAGA hats to confused locals. Spoiler alert, it involves MAGA hats, meerkats, and a whole lot of what the heck. Our dynamic duo, not content with nearly becoming Lion Chow, sets their sights on a much bigger target, the entire African continent. But with you two, it's just Tuesday. Fresh from their tangle with the talking lion, Eric and Don Jr. decide Africa needs a Trump-style makeover. But can two guys who think the Serengeti is a type of pasta really make Africa great again? The locals' expressions range from polite confusion to, are these guys for real? One villager even asks if MAGA is a new type of malaria medication. Picture this. Eric and Don Jr. grinning like they've just discovered fire, trying to explain the concept of make America great again to people who are, you know, not in America. Oh honey, if only. But wait, it gets better. Don Jr., ever the visionary, decides that what Africa really needs is drumroll, please. Keep the bad hombres out. The tribe elder patiently explains that they don't have any bad hombres, just occasional visits from their neighboring village for trade and festivals. A wall? Yes, you heard that right. He tries to convince a local tribe to build a wall around their village. Trust me, he says, walls are great. Don Jr.'s response? Exactly. You never know when those festival goers might decide to stay permanently. Don Jr. beams as Eric starts handing out Trump-branded peace treaties, which, upon closer inspection, appear to be golf club membership forms. The Trump boys, completely oblivious, think they've succeeded. See, we told you we could bring people together. Ouch. But let's be real, folks. The only truly endangered species here is common sense in the Trump family trees. As the sun sets on our safari adventure with the Trump boys, it's clear they've managed to hunt down something far more elusive than any big game: their own dignity. Jimmy Kimmel's skits have been giving us a hilarious peek into this comedy goldmine. At least there, the only thing at risk of extinction is their self-awareness. Remember, folks, the real trophy isn't mounted on a wall. It's preserving our planet's amazing creatures for future generations. Now, that's something worth tweeting about.